is going on, everybody? Welcome back to part 2 of the NHL trade deadline preview. I'm super excited for today's video. I hope you guys are having a good family day. Yes, I'm spending the family day making a video, but I hope you guys enjoyed the long weekend. It's not over yet. Enjoy family day, like I said. I tried to change it up for part 2 of the deadline, so I didn't stick with the same buyers, sellers, and the trade bait board, but we will still talk about some teams that could be interested in all of these players that I have on the board. Before we get into the episode, guys, make sure to go hit the subscribe button down below and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and make sure to comment down below if what you think of the video. If you think I missed any teams on the board, I would be more than happy to go over your guys' comments and definitely reply to them. And make sure to tell your friends about the channel as well. And now, without further ado, let's get into the episode. Alright, let's start with buyer beware. So as you can see on the board, I've got the buyer beware and buy low options. So what I'm thinking with both of these categories, the buyer beware are players that you might be able to spend too much to get and acquire, that the trade might not pay off for you guys. And buy low options are players that you could get for pretty cheap or relatively cheap, and these guys could pay off big time for you. On the buy low options, I have some players that could be involved in some bigger trades that could really pay off in the future, like Andreas Johnson, but I will get to that player later down the road in the episode. Let's start with the buyer bewares, and that means Wayne Simmonds. I had this guy number 2 on the trade bait list. I don't know currently if he's still on the market or not, despite I think the Flyers are 1-1 in their last 13 games. So I don't know if he's still on the market, but if he is, then I don't know how many teams will be calling. I'm sure there are a lot, and I don't know how much those teams are willing to give up for him. The price must be a first and maybe some type of prospect. I don't know which one it would be. But I think personally, Simmonds might be another Rick Nash like last trade deadline, where a team trades a lot to acquire him as a rental player, as his contract expires in the summer. Teams trade a lot to acquire him, and then he either walks at during the summer, or he just doesn't pay off. Rick Nash, I think he only had something like 8 goals with the Bruins last year, so that trade definitely didn't work out. I don't think Simmonds will be much different for whatever team does acquire him. Hopefully, I'm wrong for whatever team gets him. Hopefully, it pays off for them. But personally, I don't think Simmonds can keep up with today's NHL game, especially the player that he plays and how hard he plays. I don't know how long he can keep that going for, and we've already started to see it slow down this season. On to Ilya Kovalchuk. The same thing kind of applies to him, where he's more of a slower type of player like Simmonds. Not as hard and gritty. He's more of a finesse player, but still a big body. I'm sure he's already starting to get tired at the deadline. And for teams that are acquiring these players, I think that they're definitely looking to go far in the playoffs. I don't know if these players would get tired by that point. The thing about Kovalchuk is he has an extra year on his contract, so that would be... that would definitely be intriguing for whoever wants to offer on Kovalchuk, and I think for that case, he will probably command more of a price than Wayne Simmonds does. So that's good for whoever team tries to acquire him, but I don't know how well he'll play. We gotta remember that he is on the Los Angeles Kings, which is the second worst team in the league behind the Ottawa Senators, and he's still having a half-decent season. So whatever team does acquire him, I'm sure his production will go up a bit, but I don't know how that will pay off, especially with his contract being over $6 million. On to third on the list, Dougie Hamilton. Now, this player might surprise you being on the buyer beware list. He hasn't had a great season this year. At all with the Carolina Hurricanes. He played better with the Flames last year, but even at the end of the year, he was definitely starting to his production was starting to slow down, and I don't know what that big of a piece Hamilton will be with whatever contender he goes to. Obviously, the price will probably be the highest, or one of the highest on the buyer bewares. I saw Sergei Bobrovsky there. His price is going to be pretty high, but I don't know, and I'm sure one team will pay it nonetheless. This guy might prove me wrong. He can still turn it around, but recently his production has not been the same, even with a Carolina Hurricanes team that is in a playoff spot. So I know the Toronto Maple Leafs could be interested in a guy like Dougie Hamilton. which I could see there might be a fit with the Leafs, and they could give up a guy like Andreas Johnsson, which could really pay off for the Hurricanes, who are looking for some more offensive depth, offensive production. So that being said, the Leafs could be a perfect fit for a guy like Dougie Hamilton, and they have the pieces that they could send back the other way. On to Jeff Carter. This guy could be the worst on this list. The LA Kings are obviously shopping him along with Kovalchuk, as like I said, they're the bottom 5 in the NHL. So this guy will definitely be on the market. This is a player I don't know that many teams will be interested in him, but there are at least going to be one team that's going to be interested in him, and they might pay a hefty price for a guy like Jeff Carter. Hasn't had a great season, but he's definitely getting older. I think he's 33 or 34 now, so that is definitely concerning, especially with the contract being over $7 million for the next 4 or 5 years. I can't remember what exactly the contract is. All I know is it's a pretty bad one, and the Kings will definitely be looking to move it and actually gain some assets off this trade, and I think they will. I know one team will pay for it. Carter's had a bad season, but again, he's on the LA Kings, so he'll definitely help whatever team he goes on. He'll be a good, solid second-line center for a playoff push. The Carolina Hurricanes could be interested in him. They have the cap space, and they're looking for another center to go behind Sebastian Aho. So, I think the Hurricanes will be active. I think they'll be calling on Jeff Carter, but they're going to try to make the LA Kings retain salary unless I don't think the Hurricanes will do it unless the Kings retain some salary. So Jeff Carter will be on the market, and he will command a pretty hefty price. And finally, Sergei Bobrovsky. Now this one, he's still going to be a fantastic goalie for whatever team gets him. I just think the price is going to be it's just going to blow. The price is going to be high on Sergei Bobrovsky, and that's I think it's going to be a bit too high for the goaltender that he is at the moment. He's on the Blue Jackets, which has a solid defense, a really solid defense, and a solid offense, and he hasn't been able to play consistently throughout the year. He's a pretty up and down goaltender, and they don't have the security that he's going to re-sign with that team at the deadline. The only at the free agency, the only way I think this trade could benefit the team acquiring Bobrovsky is if in the deal a contract is worked out that he'll sign immediately after the trade. That's the only reason I could see this trade working out. If that does not happen, I think it's going to be a huge price for Bobrovsky that can walk or might not even be the brick wall that you expect him to be for what you're giving up. So Bobrovsky, I don't know what's going to exactly happen with him. All I know is the Blue Jackets are shopping him at the deadline, and they're looking for a hefty price. Now, on to buy low options. Now, these are players that you can get for a pretty low price and that they're definitely going to pay off for you down the road. And I think these players will do that for sure for the price, especially that you're giving up. The Capitals picked up a player at the last deadline that was kind of a buy low option, and that really turned into something. I'm forgetting his name right now. He was a defenseman, but he was playing top 4 minutes, and he was a huge piece to the Washington Capitals playoff run, and they got him for something like a 3rd or 4th round pick. So that was awesome for the Capitals, and there's still players like that in my case, and I believe that will be the same thing for whatever team acquires them. Let's start with Charlie Coyle. So obviously a bit of a higher profile for Coyle than most players on this list, but I think for the price that the Wild are asking for him, this guy can be a massive part to whatever team acquires him. I've heard rumors that the Bruins are interested in a guy like Charlie Coyle. He will definitely help out the offensive depth that they're looking for. He could play on the second line, winger, or he could play on the third line center spot. Whatever the Bruins need him to play, he will play it. I think a lot of teams will be asking about Charlie Coyle and looking at the asking price. On to Andrei Burakovsky. Now, this guy, I think, could be the biggest X factor on this list. The guy's not had a great season this year. His career high in goals is 17. He's 23 years old, so he's still got some time to develop and grow. I don't think he was given the opportunity in Washington, and when he's on, he is on. He's a very up and down, emotional player. I was hearing that in the Stanley Cup Finals last year. He served as a healthy scratch a couple times, so I think the price for Burakovsky will be more of a second-round pick, or maybe add a bit onto the second-round pick. I don't think it's going to be too crazy compared to some of these other players that will be a first plus to acquire them. I think Burakovsky could be a very solid option for whatever team acquires him. On to Ryan Dzingel. Now, the Sens, I think, are still asking a first-round pick for this guy, But at the same time, if they can't get rid of Duchesne, or if they get rid of Duchesne and Stone, who are their main two guys that they're looking to trade, Ryan Dzingel is going to be there, and I think they're just going to look to get him off their plate right now, as he's still a fantastic player, but they want to get something for him at the deadline. I think they're going to get something. I don't know if it will be a first. If it's not a first, it's a steal for whatever team acquires this guy. This will potentially be a 30-goal scorer on a contender. So if a team could get him for under a first-round pick, that will just be an absolute steal for that team. That's why I've got him on the buy low list. And I think a lot of teams will be calling Eugene Melnyk on a player like this. Andreas Johnsson. So I probably have a lot of Leaf fans watching this video. You guys might be surprised. You guys might be upset at me for having Andreas Johnsson at the list. I think last time I checked, he was third in rookie scoring, which is unbelievable. I think this guy will potentially be a 20 or 30 goal scorer for in the future, the next couple years. This guy will be a massive offensive talent for whatever team acquires him. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams asking for him, especially teams that are looking for offensive depth, or even down the road, a lot of rebuilding teams will be looking at a guy like this. I mentioned the Carolina Hurricanes. Leafs are looking for a lot of right-hand shot defensemen. Brendan Montour of the Anaheim Ducks will definitely be. They'll definitely be looking at him for sure. The Ducks have shown interest in trading Montour to the Leafs for some offensive talent. I think if the Ducks package Montour and maybe a bit of an third-line player that maybe like a Jakob Silfverberg, they could pick up Andreas Johnsson and maybe add another B-list prospect or a pick onto that. So I think Andreas Johnsson could find a new home by the deadline. I don't think it's exactly what the Leafs want to do, but if they're looking for a right-shot defenseman on the blue line, I think in order to acquire that guy, Andreas Johnsson is going to have to be on the block, and they can look to add on to that trade as well. Finally, Nick Jensen. So this guy might not be as high a profile as the other players on this list. This guy is a great defenseman. The Leafs are also interested in him, and they don't have to pay as big of a price as giving up a guy like Janssen. Nick Jensen plays for the Detroit Red Wings. If you don't know who he is, this guy has played top 4 minutes. He's looked very solid for the Red Wings, being their best defenseman all season. I mean, I know that doesn't say much as it is the Detroit Red Wings, but he's still been a very solid option for the Red Wings. And I think a lot of teams will be asking about a guy like Nick Jensen. They'll probably be asking for around a second round pick, or a third round pick even, and a couple other pieces. I think whatever team does end up getting Nick Jensen, this guy could be a massive piece to the playoff push, add a lot of defensive depth, and I think the Red Wings will be getting rid of this guy for undervalue, in my opinion, with what he's worth. Now, that's going to be it for the episode, guys. I'm sorry if my energy was a bit low. I'm sick again. I've been sick for a long time now, but it's come back. So I'm sorry if the energy is a bit low for this. Make sure you guys go tell your friends about the channel. And if you guys are looking forward to the trade deadline, make sure to hit the like button down below. Like I said, I'll hopefully be going live after many big trades and giving you guys live updates on the trade deadline. That is February 25th. It's a Monday. Make sure to go mark your guys' calendars. And that's going to be it for the episode, guys. I hope you all enjoyed. We'll see you guys in the next episode.